Hi everyone, I'm a few minutes early, just double checking to make sure that I've got everything ready to go and that I am live. I'm going to find out on my little mini pad to see if everything's working appropriately. Oh, I am live. I can see it. So welcome everybody. It's Thursday evening, October 9th. Welcome to my FaceTime Live. I am April Davis with April Davis Creations. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I live in Spring Hill, Kansas. So welcome. I'm so glad you could join me tonight. Tonight we're going to actually make 3 cards that are part of the Pick of the Patch bundle. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But before I do that, I actually want to spend a little bit of time talking about a special that we've got going on. And I see that my mom, Carolyn Williams, has joined. Hi, Mom. Thank you for joining. Let me show you the document that I want to share with you. Hold on just a second and I'll push it over. This is an incredible special that Stampin' Up is running for the 35th anniversary. It's our kit special, and this month through the end of October, they are offering 35% to celebrate the 35th anniversary. They're offering 35% in 2 different ways. You can either get 35% off your kit, which means that the kit that normally is $99 and you get $125 worth of product, you can get 35% off, so you're spending approximately $64 and some change on your kit. You still get $125 worth of product, or you can spend the $99 on your kit, which is the normal fee, but instead of $125 worth of product, you're going to get $168 and some change worth of product. Incredible. I've never seen a special like this before. And what's really nice about it is that if you've got a lot of things on your wish list, this might be the way to get some of those things. There's no commitment as far as being a demonstrator. And what I mean by that is you can choose to build a business, or you can choose to be a hobbyist and just get the discount. Either way is totally fine. I've been a hobbyist a number of times, and actually am building my business this time, but I've taken advantage of these kit specials before. None like this one, but I have taken advantage of these kit specials before because they are so incredible. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing this evening. We're going to be utilizing, let me get this switched over for you. We're going to be utilizing the Pick of the Patch bundle. And the Pick of the Patch bundle is actually a stamp set, and it is a punch. It's a punch builder. Now, what I want to remind you about our bundles is that you can buy the stamps alone, you can buy the punch alone, or you can buy the 2 together. And if you buy the 2 together, it's considered a bundle. And then the bundle is, you get a 10% savings on that. So if you are thinking about placing an order and you want the stamps and the punch, order them together as a bundle. Use the bundle number and you will get the 10% savings on that. I do want to share with you, let me switch out my document, and I'm going to bring this one over. And basically I want to talk about the to-go class and what it means with the to-go class. I'm going to create 3 cards tonight. You can actually receive the kit to make those 3 cards. 2 of each card includes all of the card stock that you're going to need in order to recreate these cards. Now, of course, if you want to recreate them the exact way that I've done it, then you're going to be sure to get the bundle that I'm going to be showing tonight. If not, and you've got other pumpkins and sentiments and die cuts in your library, then utilize those. You can still utilize the kit and be creative utilizing the things that you have in your own library. So I want to be sure to let you know that you need to place an order of $40 or more before tax and shipping between October 16th and the 23rd, utilizing the host code that I'm going to bring up. It's actually on this document, but I'll bring it up again for you to see it. But it's important for you to use the host code because then I know that you're saying to me, I want the kit to go. I won't be able to do any stamping on any of the documents for you. That's why if you want it to look exactly the way that I'm creating it, you'll want to get this stamp set. But Stampin' Up! Has a policy that we cannot do any stamping for you. So I'll send you everything you need so that you can do your own stamping. And other than that, everything is included in your kit. I'm going to be using some die cuts that are not part of this bundle. Those die cuts will be included in your kit. You won't have to worry about them. And then after you place your order by the 23rd of October, I will get the kits cut and then I will have the kits shipped out to you by October 25th. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do some switching back. I'm going to take this off. I think I'm still getting to know all of this. Okay. Hold on just a second. Pulling this up. There we go. We're good. Let me pull the catalog away and I'm actually going to show you the stamp set and the punch. Both are so fun. With the stamp set, you're going to receive a number of different pumpkins, a number of different sentiments. You even can create a jack-o'-lantern if you choose to do that. We're not going to do jack-o'-lanterns tonight, but we're going to use a lot of pumpkins. And then you've got the punch, and I'm going to show you a little bit about this punch because it's a builder punch. So basically, when you're punching, you want to make sure that you align your paper in your punches appropriately so you don't have any paper waste. There'll be a tiny bit, but not a lot. And I'm going to show you how you do that. So let's go ahead and start with card number 1. Oh, I didn't actually show the cards. Let's show you the cards first. So this will be card number 1 we'll be working on. And then we have this card that we're going to be making. And then we've got our third card. They're all so pretty and they're so fun and so easy to make. So let's get started now. I'm going to pull these off and we're going to pull out the first kit. And I want you to see how the kits are going to come to you. They'll come with the envelopes included, so you will have the envelopes because it's important. Once you create, you want to share. And when you share, you create happiness. So you have to have envelopes in order to be able to share. So in this particular kit, you're going to get a base crumb cake base. You're going to have a copper clay cardstock layer. You're going to have your basic white cardstock layer that we're actually going to stamp the pumpkins on. You've got the Them Bones Designer Series paper. This Them Bones Designer Series paper actually comes from a Halloween pack. You can see tombstones on the back side. But I love the plaid, and it goes with the colors that I've chosen. So I'm using that. And then we've got some scrap to stamp a pumpkin on that will not go on the other cardstock. And then I've got a piece of our early espresso that we're going to use to punch our stem for our pumpkin. So as always, I always start with the stamping first. So I'm going to move these other items out of the way. I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Pierce mat and a piece of scrap for me to stamp off on. And we're going to start stamping our pumpkins. So let me bring this card back in just so that we can use it as a reference. The pumpkins are actually stamped in Cajun Craze. So I'm going to start with that. Open my Cajun Craze. And we're going to utilize the big pumpkin and a smaller pumpkin. The reason that I'm always bringing my Stampin' Pierce mat in is because we're using photopolymer stamps. And photopolymer stamps do not have a lot of cushion to them. So I want to make sure that I'm not stamping on a really hard surface because there's no give to these photopolymer stamps. If I use my Stampin' Pierce mat, then I have a little bit more give, so I'm getting a good stamp. So the first thing I'm going to do is tap, tap, tap in my stamp pad and make sure that I've got good coverage. I have good coverage, but I'm just going to test it out to make sure everything's good so that when I actually stamp on my paper, I'm not going to have any issues. So I'm looking at a little blemish down here. I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not. It doesn't look like it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line this up on my cardstock, and I'm going to stamp my first pumpkin. So we've got our first pumpkin. I'm going to use my Stampin' Chamois or my Simply Chamois to clean my stamp off. I will be using this again. Plus, if I'm being completely honest, I get my hands in the ink a lot. And the way that that happens is I pick it up off of a stamp and or because I'm leaving my ink pad open. So I automatically clean things and close my ink pad as soon as I'm done with them. This particular ink pad we were using again, so I didn't close it up. I've tested this smaller pumpkin, so now I'm going to go ahead and ink it up, and I'm going to place it on my cardstock as well. So now we've got our 2 pumpkins. I will clean this off, and then I'm going to close my stamp pad. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our old olive ink so that we can stamp our leaves and the tendrils for your pumpkin. So let me open this up, and we'll do the same thing, stamp, stamp, stamp. I'm looking through my clear block to make sure that I'm getting good coverage. I had good coverage. I'm just going to stamp it off to make sure everything's good. And then I'm going to pull this up to me just a little bit so that I can see, but I'm going to stamp this leaf, and then I will do the same, and I'm going to stamp the leaf for this pumpkin. Simply Chamois over here. I'm going to clean this off, and now we'll do the same thing with the tendrils. Testing it out just to make sure I've got good clean stamp, and then we're going to stamp this tendril over here. I'm going to turn it so I can try to get it to fit on the paper. Okay, and then we're going to stamp over here. Now, something I want to show you here. Let me see if you can see this. Can you see, let me bring it over this way. Can you see I kind of tilted my ink block, or my block for my stamp, and it got into the ink. I'm going to watch this really closely because potentially if you rock your block, that kind of rhymes, doesn't it? If you rock your block, you could potentially get ink on your cardstock, and you don't want to do that. So I am going to watch it really closely, but I think I'm going to be okay. I'm going to go straight down and come right back up. So I did not get any ink on it, but in my classes, I see this happen a lot where somebody will get ink. I do it too. I get it on the block, and then potentially you're going to get it on your piece of paper that you're stamping. So I've got that cleaned off so that it's not there any longer. And now what I can do is I can, while we're still utilizing this piece of cardstock, I'm going to stamp the sentiment. And the sentiment is in your Early Espresso. So I'll go ahead and open that up as well. And I'm going to find my sentiment. You're the pick of the patch. Test this out. Make sure it's inked up well. You can see kind of light there. I didn't look through like I'm supposed to make sure I've got good coverage. So I got good coverage on that one. So let me test it again. I'm going to look through it, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to line it up. Let me get a little bit closer so that I'm fairly level. I'm going to stamp my pick of the patch, pull it up, and it's good. There was actually, it looks like something that was on my block. I don't know if it's it looks like it was I don't know, a speck of dust or something. It's not, it doesn't bother me, but this is the whole reason why you want to do your stamping test ahead of time, just in case, because if there's anything on your stamp, it will show up when you actually stamp. So we're good. I'm going to move this off to the side. I'm going to close this Early Espresso ink. And now we'll pull in my piece of scrap so that I can stamp my pumpkin that is going to go on top of these pumpkins. So I'm going to open up the pumpkin pie ink this time. Again, test this out. I'm looking at, I've already done a test on it, but I'm just going to double check because I'm worried about that speck of dust. It's not there. So now I can go ahead and stamp this. Before I stamp it, actually, I want to show you something. So remember I talked that this is a punch builder. It really does make a difference where you punch or where you stamp before you punch. If I were to punch on this side and come across over here, you can see the waste that I would have because I stamped on this side of my cardstock. I don't want to do that. I want to stamp on this side of my cardstock, and I'm going to have minimal waste just because of the width of my cardstock. But I'm going to have minimal waste. So I'm going to go ahead, and this may have dried just a little bit. I'm going to stamp my pumpkin here. Then I'm going to clean this off on my Simply Chamois. And now I'm ready to punch this pumpkin. Oh, before I do, I'm going to practice what I always teach. Close your ink up because that's when you get your fingers in it. So now I can line my pumpkin up, and basically what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have even spacing of white around the entire pumpkin, and you can put some pressure in it to hold it in. Then you can turn it over and with 2 hands punch, and then your pumpkin will punch out. I'm going to move the scrap cardstock off to the side and get rid of the extra pieces that I won't need. Just put them in my trash bucket. The other thing that I'm going to need is my little stem, and I'm actually going to reach up and use a piece of scrap that I had started using previously. I'm going to line my stem up here and then stamp it out. Okay, so now we're ready to start assembling the card. All the stamping is done. So let me put a stem on this pumpkin. When I prefer to use glue. It just gives me a little bit more flexibility with the timing. I do have the tape runners that Stampin' Up! Carries. For example, this one is the Stampin' Seal Plus. We also have a Stampin' Steel. I do use these periodically, but I don't think I'm going to be using them tonight. But for the most part, I use glue, and I use the glue so that I have some flexibility. So now I got the stem on here. I'm going to pull out my dimensionals, and I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this pumpkin. And then I'm going to bring my cardstock back in, and I'm going to adhere my pumpkin to this piece of cardstock. And we'll just put it about right here. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start building out the rest of the card. So I'm going to set this aside for the moment. I'm going to get my Stampin' Pierce mat out of the way. This is our card base. I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to use my bone folder to burnish the edge so that it lays flat. I'm going to start with the copper clay, and I'm going to add my stamped piece to the copper clay. Now what I want to say to you is that you could build the card first and then add the stamped piece, but if I were to glue this white piece down to my copper clay and put this down, and then I did something where I made a mistake with my stamping, then I would have to start tearing it all apart. So it's always easier if you do your stamping first. If you make a mistake, there's another side to the cardstock. You can just flip it over and try again. But you're not messing up the rest of your card by doing that. So again, I use the glue. The glue gives me a little flexibility to make sure that I've got this centered and aligned appropriately. I'll set this aside to dry for a minute, and I'm going to take my Designer Series paper, and I'm going to glue it down to my cardstock. And you can see I barely use any glue. You don't need a lot of glue. The more glue you have, the bigger mess you've got, and it's really not necessary. It glues just fine using a little bit of glue. Plus, if you use too much glue, you risk the chance of warping. We've got really good quality cardstock, but again, I've had classes where they've used way too much glue, and you actually have some warping to your cardstock because it's too wet. or you can see the trails of the glue underneath. So it really does just take a little bit. So I'm done with that. I'm actually going to adhere this cardstock, this layer to my card base with dimensionals. So I've got another sheet. I use all of my dimensionals. I will actually cut these apart and use them. For tonight though, I just pulled out another one simply because I'm going to keep it simple for me, and I can do my four corners and my center easy enough. So let's go ahead and take the dimensional backs off of this piece. And then we'll only have a few more things to do to finish up this card. So I've got my backs off. I'm going to center this in the card. So we've got that. Then I'm going to take my linen thread and I'm going to build a bow. And I'm going to double this bow actually. So I'm going to make sure that I have plenty enough linen thread, kind of straighten it out. It's a little curly. And I'm going to tie my bow. Pull it through. I'm going to make it the size that I want. This one's a little big on this end, so we'll pull this one down. But I'll adjust it the way that I need it to be. And then I'm going to utilize the scissors that I designate for ribbon and thread. And I'm going to cut that off. And then I'm also going to cut this end of the bow off as well. So let me shape this up the way that it needs to be shaped up so that everything is facing down. Make sure my bow is as I want it. Maybe pull this down just a little bit. We've got it. I'm going to trim off this end just a little bit so that they're a little bit more even. And then I'm going to take a glue dot and I'm just going to roll it up a little bit with my take your pick tool, just so that it's not quite so wide. And then it's on the end of my take your pick tool. I'll just place it right here on the pumpkin. And then I'm going to take my bow and lay it right on top of there. And now we've got the bow. And then I'm going to take some of our pastel adhesive backed sequins and I'm going to put on the finishing touches. Now what's exciting about these sequins is that when you place a to-go or an order for the to-go kit, if your order is greater than $50 or more, then you're going to get these sequins absolutely free in your kit. So the to-go kit is free with $40 order, but if you place a $50 order, you're going to get a pack of sequins absolutely free with your kit. Okay, so card number 1 is done. Let's bring the two of them up. Yay! So pretty, so pretty. Okay, let's move to card number 2. Now remember, this was card number 2. So let's go ahead and start building it. I am going to clean up a little bit of this mess before we get started, just to make it easier for me. It's really hard when I'm working with a mess. Here's our next kit packet. Let me move this stuff out of the way, and I'll show you what's in this kit. So again, this is going to be a crumb cake card base. So you've got your card base, you've got your Cajun Craze layer, and I'm actually going to show you what we're going to do with this layer. I don't know if you can see this or not. I'm going to try to tilt this so you can see it. Maybe this way. Can you see the grid on here? This grid we're going to build into this card base, or this card layer, so that you've got a little bit of dimension. You're also going to have your Them Bones plaid paper. I've got a piece of crumb cake cardstock that I have die cut from our Stylish Shape dies. Remember, since this isn't part of the bundle, I will be cutting this for you. But I went ahead and cut it out tonight just to make things quicker. But I do want to show you that we have a mini cut and emboss. This is actually the boho blue cut and emboss. I tend to use this one, the mini cut and emboss. We also have it in white, but the boho blue right now is still available. It was a kit special back the beginning of the year. But basically, we have the white one, and then we've got this one. This is in the online store, so you can still get it. But I like to use the mini because the little die cuts fit just fine. So they have little mini plates that you utilize. You put your sandwich together, and you run through just like you would the big cut and emboss. It's just that this is the mini, and it's so convenient when you're utilizing little dies like the ones that I'm using tonight. So I just wanted to kind of show that to you before we moved on. So the square cardstock has already been cut for you. That's part of your kit. And then additionally, you will have a piece of designer series paper from the same Them Bones that one of the pumpkins will be cut from. You've got a strip to stamp your sentiment on, and then you've got some cardstock that you can utilize to stamp your pumpkin. So there's a couple pumpkins that you're going to need to stamp, so you're going to need a piece of scrap for that. So let's go ahead and get started with our stamping. Let me see. Let's pull this one out. And again, we're stamping the big pumpkin, and then we're going to stamp a little bitty pumpkin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the big pumpkin first. And remember, we already know I'm going to punch it out. It needs to be on the right side of my paper. So I'm going to go ahead and get this taken care of. Oh, and I don't have my Stampin' Pierce mat. So I just felt weird I didn't have it. So let me pull that in. Everything looks good here. So let me stamp this pumpkin. Good, good. Clean it off. Put my ink away. And then I'm going to bring out the Cajun Craze ink, which is right here. Pop that one open. And I will repeat this again. Sorry, didn't mean to stutter, but I was trying to figure out how I wanted to say this. When you're opening our stamp pads, go to the center of the pad in the back and just punch. It will pop it open, and then you can flip it over and close it up, if you will. Our inks are such that when you see me, I'm just doing a little tap, tap, tap. I don't have to dig into the stamp pad at all because all the ink is at the top of the stamp pad. It's a foam pad, but because of the way that Stampin' Up! Has built their pads, when you turn this over, see if I can show this to you, the pad starts to face down, and when it's facing down, then the ink is coming to the top of the pad. So you very lightly are able to tap it, but I also wanted to show you just how you open these pads. So here's our little pumpkin. I'm going to tap, tap, tap. I'm just showing you, did not get a good tap, tap, tap on that. So I'm going to go back in, do it again. I'm going to stamp it off just to make sure everything's good. Everything is good. I will double check again. That's why I love these clear blocks and the photopolymer stamps, is because I can see through and see if I've got a good inking on it. So let me clear this off. And then when you go to close your pad, you just pull, pop, closed, and you're good. So let's go ahead and punch out this pumpkin. Again, we're going to do it the same way that we did before. You're going to make sure that it's lined up so that you have an even amount of white on every side. You can put a little pressure on it to make sure that you've got it the way that you want it. Then turn it over and punch. You can leave it up and punch, but when you do that, then everything comes flying off at you. And I just learned the hard way that it's easier if I turn it over. The other thing that I'm going to need to punch while I am looking at this is I'm going to need to punch my, let me see, do I have some cardstock here? I've got some cardstock that I'm going to use as a scrap. Oh, almost lost that. I need to punch the stems, and because I'm using crumb cake for my stems, I'm going to make my leaf crumb cake as well, just because I don't want to use green on this card, and I know leaves are pretty much green, but at this point in time, it's my card, so I'm going to make my leaf brown. Actually, you know what happened? The reason it's brown is because it's dried out. So it's not green anymore. It's brown because it's dried out. So I've got my 2 stems, and then I'm going to bring this back in, and I'm going to try to line it up so that I don't have any waste, except for the scrap, and I've got my leaf. So now I've got my leaf here as well. All right, let me get rid of this extra stuff. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to glue my stems. I didn't want to forget about my little pumpkin, so pardon my pause. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue my stem to my leaf so it can be drying. So let me turn this around and make sure it's the way that I want it, and it looks good. And then I'm going to cut out my other pumpkin, and we're just going to fussy cut. I'm not going to use these scissors. This is a good time for me to talk about this. I have scissors that I utilize for cutting paper. These are snips, and I have snips for cutting ribbon. When you cut paper, your snips will dull. They cut paper really good, but when you have dull snips, they do not cut ribbon very well. So I always have a pair of snips that I use to cut ribbon and thread, anything that's not paper, and I put my little ribbon on it so I'm reminded. So when I pick them up, because I'm going to use them to cut paper, I'm reminded, oh, these are not the snips to use. I have to pull out my paper snips. So let's go ahead and cut this little pumpkin out and do a little bit of fussy cutting really quick so we can go ahead and get this card finished up. So let's do this. And then I only have one more thing when we get done with the pumpkins to stamp, and that is going to be, well, actually I lied. We have 2 more things. We've got another pumpkin that we're going to stamp on the square base, and then we also have our sentiment to stamp. So let's get our pumpkins done and out of the way so that we can focus on those. And the other thing I try to do when I'm fussy cutting, you'll see I typically tend to hold the scissors fairly still and use my hand to turn the cardstock so that I'm not having to spend my time turning the scissors. So there's my little pumpkin. I want to get his little stem on as well. So that's drying. So we'll put his little stem on. And then now that I have, let's angle that just a little bit, make it kind of fun. Okay, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead, now that this is dry, I'm going to go ahead and glue this leaf and stem onto my big pumpkin. And then we're going to move on to some additional stamping. So let me get this glued on quickly. It will be drying. And there we go. Okay, so let's pull this piece out. And I'm going to pull out my pecan pie ink, and we're going to take this long pumpkin and we're going to stamp it in pecan pie. And then I have a little bitty, let me move this out of the way. I have a little bitty tiny stem that we're going to stamp as well. So let me open this. Ink, ink, ink. I'm going to stamp you off just to make sure I'm happy. And then we're going to center this off to just a little bit to the right, down a little bit so that I make sure I've got room for my stem. So there we go with that. Clean off my stamp. I still need this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp up my little stem. Got it. Good job. Oh, a little bit more ink there. See, it happens to me quite frequently, but I pay attention when I'm doing it so that I don't get that ink on my block on my cardstock. Okay, so we've got that. Now we can start assembling. So let me move these little pumpkins off to the side. Oh, I say we can start assembling. I forgot. I've got one more pumpkin to do. Let me get another little stem. Gosh, I totally forgot all about that little pumpkin. Okay, so where's my little stem? Did it go flying somewhere? Well, let's just do another one just because we can. I think I didn't get it punched completely. There we go. Now we're good. So let's save that little stem that I think went flying. Saved it. We'll put it off to the side. Let's get rid of these little scraps into my trash bin. And then remember that piece of designer series paper that I showed you? I'm actually going to bring in another scrap so that I can utilize more of this scrap. But this has writing on it, and it says eek and boo. When you're doing this, you want to make sure, first of all, that you don't have any waste. So I'm going to come in from this side of the stamp this time. And again, because this has got wording on it, I want to make sure that my wording is upside up versus upside down or sideways. So we've got this in there. We're going to go ahead and punch that pumpkin. And then we'll go ahead and glue this little pumpkin stem on. And then we can start doing some embossing, some dry embossing with our Simply Scored scoring tool so we can put some of that grid on our Cajun Craze cardstock. So I'm going to set this off to the side with these others to dry, and I'm going to bring this piece in. And we have a tool called the Simply Scored scoring tool. And it has a scoring tool with it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to put my cardstock up in the corner. I'm going to take the big end of my scoring tool and I'm going to go every 1 inch. So I'm going to go 1 inch, and then I'm going to go 2 inches, and then 3 inches, and then 4 inches. And this card's just a little bit over 5 inches, so I'm going to have a little area right there. And then I'm going to turn it this way. This is 4 inches, so I'm going to score 1 inch, 2 inches, and 3 inches. And that's all I need to do. And in doing so, you can see how we've got a fun little grid on this piece of cardstock. Now, you can do this on your trimmer. Remember, our trimmers, not only do they have the blades, but they also have the scoring tool as well. So basically what I could do is I could do the same thing. If you didn't have the Simply Scoring tool and you wanted to just use your trimmer, you could line this up at 1 and use your scoring tool to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and it would do the exact same thing. I just like that I get a deeper emboss with my Simply Scoring tool. Okay, so we're gonna bring in the card base, this crumb cake card base. I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder again to burnish that. And what I'm going to do before I actually adhere it is I'm going to take my designer series paper from Them Bones, my plaid that I love that goes so well with this card base, and I'm going to adhere it. And what we're going to do after we get this adhered is we are going to wrap some linen thread around it. But I want to wrap the linen thread around it before I actually adhere it to my card base, because I want the thread to be hidden. Let me see if I can do this. I'm figuring this card out. You see it's hidden between the 2 layers. So the thread goes between the top layer and the base layer, which is what I want to do. So now I've got my designer series paper on. I'm going to take my linen thread again, and I'm just going to wrap it around my card base a couple of times, making sure I've got plenty enough left to tie my bow. Snip that off, and I'm going to clean this up a little bit, move it up to the top here just a little bit. And then my bow is going to be over to this side. So I want to make sure I have enough of this thread on this side to get my bow tied. Let's clean that up just a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around just to give it a little bit more stability as I tie my bow. And then I'm going to press my finger down, tie the bow. And even though the bow's not exactly where I want it to go right now, I'll show you how we move that. So I'm going to go ahead and tie it tight. Everything's good. And I want it to this side just a little bit more. So I'm going to bend my cardstock this way to give me a little bit of give so that I can reach from behind and kind of move my bow over a little bit. I don't want it too far over, but I do want it over a little bit more. You can bend it one way or the other just so that you're able to move it. I'm going to do it about right there, I think. And I want my bows, my loops to be just a little bit smaller. Not significantly, but just a little bit smaller. The other thing that you deal with is that when you start to pull on it more, you potentially are twisting it, and then your bow won't lay down quite so flat. It's not a big deal, but it's just something that I try to pay attention to. So I've got my bow now. Here, I'm going to take my snips. I know they're not my ribbon snips, but these snips tend to cut the thread fairly well. I'll move those off to the side. And now what I can do is I can take this, put the glue behind it, and now I can adhere it to my cardstock. So let me get this done. Again, not using a ton of glue, just enough. I will go ahead and center this on my cardstock so that we've got an even edge on all sides. And once I'm comfortable with all that, I'll make sure that it adheres. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my square that we stamped on, and I'm going to start building it out with my pumpkin. So I'm going to find my dimensionals again. And I'm going to put a couple dimensionals on my big pumpkin. And we'll go ahead and get him laid first. And it's going to be off to the side. Oh, you know what? Let me see what I can do. I wanted to stamp the tendril. Let me put it on the back side of this. I think it'll work if I put it on the back side of this. Will it come off? Yeah. Because I've already pulled the backs off of my dimensionals, I just didn't want to cause a problem with them sticking. And I'm going to take my pecan pie again. And because I've already glued down this piece, I'm going to try to get as close as I possibly can. Typically what you would do is you would stamp the tendril before you glued this piece down. But this piece is, let me just double check it. Oh, actually it's glued down, but I can work with it. So I'm gonna pull it up quick. Oh, actually I'm making a mess, but we'll fix it. Okay, so we've got it pulled up. My little stem had a little problem, but I'm going to go ahead and do my tendril because I really wanted to get that tendril on there. So we'll go ahead and do this, and I'm going to line it up right here, and I'm going to stamp. So now I have my tendril. I'm happy about that. The leaves will cover the area that is a little wonky, if you will. And what I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch another little stem out. So now you've got me stamping on the fly. I've kind of gone a little bit rogue because I skipped a step that I didn't really want to skip. And so I'm going to pull this little piece off, put a little bit more glue down here, put my little stem back on. So anything can be fixed. If you don't like it or if you forgot something, you can fix it. You just got to take the time to get it done. So now I've got that on there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some glue behind it. And we're going to go ahead and lay it down. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back down the way that I want it. And voila. It's ready to go. We've got our little pumpkin and he's got his little tendril. I'm happy. So let's go ahead and let's layer him on the square. Right about here, I would say. So we've got him. And then we're going to take our little pumpkin that is made out of designer series paper. And again, I'm just going to put a dimensional on each side. Take the backs off. I'm going to lay this little pumpkin over the top of my big pumpkin just by a little bit. And then I'm going to take the little pumpkin, and I'm also going to use a dimensional on it, but I'm going to put it down here at the very, very bottom, because what I want to do when I place this pumpkin is I'm going to bump it up next to the other pumpkin. So the dimensional is going to bump up next to the other pumpkin, but it's not going to lay on top of the pumpkins so that we don't have double dimensionals on everything. Then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to put my dimensionals on the back. Take those dimensionals off, the backs off, that is, and we're going to bump it up next to the bow on the front of the card. So we're going to lift the bow up just a little bit. We're going to put it a little bit above the bottom of the designer series paper. And let me see, I'm going to go up a little bit higher, probably about right here. Make sure that's lined up correctly. And then the rest of the bow can go over the square. Actually, I'm going to move this just a tad. It looks like it's just a little crooked. Okay, there we go. Last thing we need to do is stamp our sentiment. So I'm going to take that piece of paper that we have and we're going to stamp it in Cajun Craze. Open that up and we're going to do the pick of the patch again. Tap, tap, tap. Just testing it, make sure everything's good. Remember last time I had a little bit of something on my C, so I want to make sure I got that. I'm going to go ahead and stamp this down. Hopefully you guys can see that. Clean this off. Close my ink pad up. And then I'm going to do an angle here on it, and I'm going to do an angle here on it. So there we've got our sentiment, and I'm going to use a couple more dimensionals. If you don't have dimensionals at home for your kit, you can certainly just lay things flat, but I like to do dimensionals, and dimensionals will not come in your kit. No adhesives will come in your kit. It's basically the cardstock. And designer series paper. So then we're going to layer this over the top of the square, just so that it's laying over a little bit, and I'm going to make sure it's lined up completely, and then I'll press it down, and there you go. There is card number 2. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot the bling. I'm looking at it and I'm like, something's missing. I'm missing bling. So let's do it for this one too. We're going to do, I typically do 3. I don't know why this one's only got 2 on it, but I'm going to do 3 on this one. So I'm going to do a big one and a little one will come out here. And then I'm going to take a little one and I'm going to put it right down here. Okay, very good. Now I'm happy. So card number 2. Fun. All right, let's go to our last card. Bring it over so you can see. I'm going to clean up this mess. And if I sound a little froggy, I am froggy. Does my voice sound froggy? I woke up this morning and my voice was really froggy. I wasn't sure about this evening, you know, as far as being able to go live, because I was really froggy. That said, as the day has gone by, I've gotten better, but I can still tell in my voice that I've got a little bit of frog. I feel fine. I'm not sick. I don't know if it's allergies or a cold or what it is, but if I sound a little off, it's just my voice. I feel fine. Okay, so in this kit, you're going to have basic white cardstock. you are going to have designer series paper from Them Bones. The back of this one's got skeletons on it. But we're not using that one, we're using this one. Okay, then I've got a piece of cardstock that you're gonna stamp your pumpkins on, and you will receive the die cut pieces that you're gonna stamp your embellishment on, or your sentiment on. It also comes from the Stylish Shape dies as well. And again, basically what you're doing is you are lining the die up on your cardstock and running it through the mini stamp or cut and emboss. So that's what I did with these two. So we'll work with these in just a minute. Then you've got your layer of vellum. You've got a scrap piece of green because we've got a lot of different stems to cut and leaves to cut. And then you've got 2 pieces of cardstock as well. What I will tell you is when you're building your kit, pay attention so that the longer piece of cardstock that matches your layer that's going to go on the card base, make sure that you do not do any punching out of that because you're going to need it for your base layer. This piece can then be utilized if you need it for additional scraps. So let's go ahead and start with our pumpkins. We've got to get our pumpkins done. We have a lot of pumpkins to do this time. So let me move this stuff out of the way, and we'll get to stamping. So all the pumpkins are going to be stamped in pumpkin pie. So let me open up this ink, and it looks like we've got 1 big pumpkin, 2 medium pumpkins, a smaller pumpkin, and a tall pumpkin. So let's do the 1 big pumpkin first. We'll get it stamped. Okay, and I'm going to stamp it about right here. And then let me clean this off, and you'll figure out what I'm doing here. I've got to do 2 medium, oops, wrong thing. I'm opening up my Simply Chamois. Oop. Go ahead and get that cleaned off. And then I need to do 2 of these medium-sized pumpkins. So we'll look at those. And remember, they go on this side of the paper, but they also need to go, if I'm cutting this way, they need to face this way. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp this one here. And I got a little close to the edge, so that's probably not the best, but we'll make it work. Making sure I got this covered up really well. We'll go ahead. You know what? I'm just going to be safe. I would rather be safe than sorry. So let me clean this off for just a second. I'm afraid that if I stamp all of them at the same time that I'm going to run into an issue. So let's go ahead and get these 2 punched first. Line that up. Okay, and then we'll put this one in over here and line it up. Oops, I need to give you a little bit more white on that side. Good enough. Punch that one. All right, and let's go at it again. So we've got 2 of our pumpkins. We're going to do another one of the medium pumpkins, and I can actually do it this way, just as long as it's on the edge. So we'll do that. And then the other 2, I'm actually going to be fussy cutting, so I'm not worried about those. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get in the way of my punching. That one, as I was punching, I wasn't going to punch out another one of my pumpkins accidentally. So I'm going to clean this off. And then we've got a medium-sized pumpkin. And so I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's do this again. I just worry that, actually we're going to be fine, but I'm going to cut off this end because it wouldn't go through. So we're going to go ahead and put this one in. There we go. That's it. All right, now the others are going to be fine. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ink this one up again. And I'm going to punch it. I'm going to stamp it right here. And then I have one more little blemish on that. I don't know if you guys can see it. But pumpkins have blemishes, right? Okay, and then this is the tall one that we're going to use. So I'm going to take this one and I am going to stamp it right here. So I'm actually utilizing all of my paper. And again, good example, this is going to be layered, so you probably aren't going to see it, but you might be able to see a little bit of a line there. It was just the way that I was inking it, and if I slowed down and I'd looked through my block, I would have seen that there, inked it again, and it would have went away. But I didn't take the time to look through my block, so now I have a little line. I'm not too worried about it. Nobody else is going to notice. You guys probably didn't even notice. Or if you did, we're going to show you how to hide it. So we've got those three punched out, moving this out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut these two really quickly, and then we will make our stems, and then we will also do our sentiment, and this card's going to go together easy peasy. So let me go ahead and fussy cut this. Remember, I'm trying to spend more time turning my paper than I am turning my scissors. I just want to make sure that I'm giving at least a little bit of white on the edge. Some people might like to fussy cut and they just don't like that white, so you might cut that white away. But the reason that I'm leaving it, at least a little bit of it, is because my punched pumpkins have a little bit of white around them. And so my pumpkins would look a little funny if some of them had white and some of them didn't have white. So I'm making sure that I'm trying to make my pumpkins look fairly similar by leaving the white little edge around them. So let me get this one cut, and then we'll stamp our stems. I don't know. Fussy cutting is fine. I don't hate it, but it's not my favorite thing to do. Some people talk about how it's so relaxing and they love to just sit and fussy cut. And that's fine. I'm just not one of them. I will do it because it needs to get done, and I don't mind doing it, but I don't find it relaxing like some people do. All right, let me get rid of these little scraps here, and we're going to pull out my green so that we can punch our stems. So let me double check and make sure I have got the right green, because remember, I told you I don't want to do the one that's our grass. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little stems. So I'm just going to start here and I'm going to start punching stems. 1, 2, 3. How come I counted 3? I punched 3 and I only see 2. Why does that happen to me? Where are those? Okay, start again. 3, 4, and let's see, can I get one more in here? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one got cut off just a little bit. I have more, so let's just do it. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got those. I'm going to pull this scrap material off to the side. Oh, look there, I found it. It must have gotten caught in there. That's okay, now I've got an extra stem. And then I need to punch at least one leaf. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to figure out a way for me to do that so that I'm let's do it this way. I'm going to take my snips. Maybe that's why I put this one in here. Oh, it is. Let me show you a trick. So when you're trying to punch and your scrap is too small and you just can't get it to fit, then what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of Post-it note, go ahead and adhere your scrap to the Post-it note, and then you can use it to maneuver your piece in. So now you can punch. You're going to punch your Post-it note too, but you're also going to punch your stem with that little bitty piece of paper, or your leaf with that little bitty piece of paper. So let me move this off to the side, get it out of the way, but that's just a fun little tip for all of you. Use your Post-it notes to help extend the length of your cardstock. And let's go ahead and start gluing. But before we actually do, I've got one more, actually two more things that I want to stamp. So I want to get the stems on, but let's go ahead and get at least my dendril stamped. Lesson learned from the last one I did. I want to get my dendril stamped before I glue my leaf down. So there's my dendril. I'm going to layer it about right here, I think, is where I want it to go. Perfect. Then I can go ahead and clean this off. I'm going to go ahead and close out my ink. We will get to the sentiment in just a second. I want to just go ahead and get the stems glued on so they can dry for just a sec before I actually start building the cards. So we're going to put a little bit there with a little stem. Turn that over. Which way do I want it to go? Let's go this way just a little bit. And then I will build a little bit more on the back. And we're going to glue it to my big pumpkin. So we've got glue here. And let's glue this down to the pumpkin. So we're going to do here. And look, the dendril falls. I'm calling them dendrils. They're called, what are they called? They're called tendrils, not dendrils. Tendrils. Okay. So let's go ahead and get that setting up, and then we'll put up these other pumpkins and put their stems on them quickly. So a little bit of glue and a stem. That looks good. A little bit of glue. And a stem. Okay. Supposedly, I had to look up what these little swirly things were called because I didn't know what they were called. But they are called tendrils, and apparently they're used to help anchor the vine to the pumpkin to protect it from the wind. I don't know. Did you guys know that? They really serve a purpose. They're not just pretty. They serve a purpose. They protect the pumpkin's vine from the wind. So, in addition to learning how to make cards tonight, you also get to learn why tendrils are important to the pumpkin. So let me move this out of the way. We're going to let these dry for just a second. I'm going to bring my basic white banner up, and we are going to stamp a harvest of blessings, and we're going to stamp it in the Cajun Craze. So let me pull the Cajun Craze out, open it up, move stuff out of the way, and I'm getting my ink on it again. I can see that I'm doing that. Let me just try to get this lined up right here. Nice. We're going to go with that. Things don't have to be absolutely perfect. Homemade cards are not absolutely perfect. So let me close this up, and we're going to layer the white banner to the mossy, green, old olive banner. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right on the back here. Not a big deal, just a little bit. And then I'm going to kind of layer this up and angle it a tad. So we've got that drying. And then what I will do is we're going to start to build the card. So let's move this stuff out of the way a little bit. I'm going to bring the card base in. This is basic white card base. We'll fold it over. Again, take the gold folder just to make sure that it's laying flat as I build it. I'm going to take the Designer Series paper, and I'm going to put a little bit of ink on it, a little bit of glue on it to adhere it to the card base. Get that centered the way that I want to get it centered. A little bit from the top, the bottom, looking at it to make sure everything's even. Looks good to me. I'm going to scooch it over just a little bit. Okay, then we're going to take the vellum layer, and with vellum you have to be really careful where you're going to put the glue because glue will show through, and you can see that there's parts of the vellum that are showing. So when I put this on, I'm going to do it on the bottom half that we're going to glue down, and I'm going to do it across the bottom. And that's really all I need to do when I glue this down. So I'm going to line it up with the edge of the Designer Series paper. So we've got that. You can actually kind of see it coming through, but we're going to cover all of that up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to adhere our pumpkins. And the pumpkins are just going to be glued to the vellum. I'm going to start with the pumpkin, the largest pumpkin. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line them up so that the largest pumpkin is not only off to the side here, but it's also a little bit from the top here. So I don't want to line it up at the bottom of the card is what I'm trying to say. The next pumpkin is the tall pumpkin that I'm going to build from the opposite side. And the tall pumpkin is not as big as the other pumpkin, so it's not going to be as tall, but I'm going to basically line it up along here. And the reason I'm doing it like this is because as we build this up, the pumpkins are going to be layered on top of each other. So we want to have pumpkins in front of each other, pumpkins behind each other. This pumpkin actually is layered on top of the bigger pumpkin. Then I'm going to take that same pumpkin and I'm going to layer it over the smaller pumpkin, over here, the taller pumpkin. And then we've got the pumpkin that we fussy cut. We're going to go ahead and make it the last pumpkin that we adhere. Just putting a little bit of glue on, but it's going to go right here. So now we have, it's not glued yet. We have all of our pumpkins glued as it adheres. I'm going to take that piece of green old olive cardstock that we were using. It goes right here. I'm actually going to tear off about half of that, or not quite half, maybe a little bit over a quarter of it, but this is going to add some texture to the card. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to tear that. I love our cardstock. When it tears, you can just see the texture in the card. So now we've got that. Add some glue to it. Looks like Autumn joined. Hi, Autumn. Thank you for joining. Thanks, Mom. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and adhere that. And the last thing we adhere is the sentiment. And I'm going to put some dimensionals behind the sentiment. And of course, I'm not going to forget the bling. So we're going to adhere the sentiment and then we're going to add some bling. So let me go ahead and get these on. Center this just in the middle of the open space. So we've got our harvest blessings here now. Let me add some sentiments, and then this card will be done. So I'm going to do a big one and a little one here, and then I'm going to put a little one down at this end, and we are done. So let me clean this up and bring all the cards back in, but those are the 3 cards for tonight. Get all my mess out of the way so you guys can get a good view of these cute, cute cards that we made. So we've got this one that we made. Of course, we've got this one that we've made. And then the other one, the first one that we had made is here. Aren't these cute cards? Can you see yourself giving these Thanksgiving cards or just happy fall cards. Remember what I say, I love to create and I love to give, and I feel like when I give, I'm creating happiness. So let me go ahead and come over here and just say that I appreciate you all being here tonight. Remember this, you can receive this class to go for free when you place a $40 order or more in my store. You shop at aprildavis.stampinup.net, and when you do that, you're actually going to need to utilize the host code that is listed here, 6DXDNHG4. Utilize that host code, an order of $40 or more, and I will send you this to-go kit for free. You'll receive everything you need to make these 3 cards times 2. You'll receive 2 of each card. You need to have your orders placed by the 23rd of this month, and then I will get the kits cut and I will have them ready to ship by October the 25th. So again, thank you all for joining me. I love these cards. I'm happy to have you guys with me tonight, and I will see you at the next Thursday Live. Bye, everyone. Thank you.